so our AE86, this car sat for 15 to 20 years and we only just now got it running, barely. It has a lot of problems that need fixing, a lot of quality of life stuff, a lot of reliability stuff. Obviously, we need to replace the carburetor, but also in here, we need to do a bunch of stuff, like these switches are broken. I need to figure out what the hell's going on with that. I did some stuff off camera since last time, like the turn indicators. I basically just sprayed a bunch of brake clean in the mechanism and just kind of did that a whole bunch, and now those work, so that's nice, I guess. The tail lights were also not working. I cleaned some connectors and changed some bulbs, so that's good now. We're still jumpering this wire here to turn the headlights on. That's nice. This is, that's, ignore that. The most pressing matter is this carburetor that doesn't work. We're just gonna take it off and throw it away. We got a Weber in the mail, or almost in the mail. I don't know, it's gonna be here like in a day or two, but we're gonna go ahead and remove this, remove the intake manifold, remove the exhaust manifold, and hunt down any vacuum leaks we can possibly find, and then put the new carburetor on when it gets here. I would just throw this thing in the dumpster right now, but we might need stuff off it still, so it's safe-ish for now. See this grit? That's from the EGR valve, and that's going into the engine. That's not good. So yeah, I'm not a fan of EGR. All right, so here's our adapter that will adapt our new carburetor to our old intake. And as you can see, it's not made very well. the holes don't line up. People got upset that I made fun of China sucking at making stuff last time, but they make it so hard not to. All right, I drilled the holes out on our Chinesium adapter, so that goes on now. Now I gotta swap to these shorter studs because the originals are too long. All right, so I had to make some more modifications to make it go on, but it goes on now. And it would work at this point, but I see some performance problems, like there's a lip right there where it doesn't line up, and there's sharp edges here and sharp casting marks on the edges of the ports. So I'm just gonna kind of clean all that up and help airflow. Just old-fashioned hot rodding stuff, basically. Yeah, so the intake port on the Chinesium adapter is a lot smaller than the intake. I'm having to machine the shit out of it. And the issue is I'm kind of running out of material on the edges there, so I might burn a hole in it, I'm not sure. And I checked more listings and companies and whatever to see if, like, did I get the right adapter? Is it like different intake manifolds for different years or whatever? But no, this is the correct one, and all the others are made just like this one is. So I guess they expect you to just throw it on there and not worry about it. But I can't do that. I cannot knowingly make the intake port smaller. This is supposed to be a performance upgrade. All right, so a lot of dremeling later, the port on the Chinesium adapter is now the same size as the port on the intake. And I actually went a little overboard and made the intake port bigger, and we didn't burn a hole through the walls on the adapter, so that's nice. So when the carburetor gets here, we'll get to see how wrong this port is. Yeah, all right, so the carburetor's here, and I was just testing our Chinese adapter to see if the hole lines up. It doesn't. And I was also looking at the studs, and look, yeah, it feels deliberate at this point. This Chinese stuff from eBay, like I would have to try to make something that bad. So I cut some smaller bolts to a specific length, and now that goes on there just with smaller bolts. They should hold it on fine. So now I just gotta Dremel out this hole so it matches the carburetor. All right, so the air now has a smoothish path to go from the carburetor to the intake, and you know, it's still not great, but I've done the best with what I have. I'm just gonna call it right there. So one last thing I'm gonna do to this adapter is the middle here is kind of thin, and I'm concerned about it cracking. So I'm gonna shove some epoxy in there and hopefully maybe prevent that. It probably won't do anything, but it's the thought that counts. All right, so we got the middle part of the adapter all epoxied up. I think it might help. It's pretty strong shit, so maybe. I went ahead and made blocking plates for both the flappy whatever and the EGR valve. The flappy whatever looked like it might restrict exhaust flow, so I cut the end off it. All right, the flappy whatever is no more. And I saw this coming from a mile away, but a lot of people saw this engine and were like, oh, that's a single overhead cam. That's not an AE86. This is an AE85. Come here, come here. I'll read it out for you. AE86. The issue is you don't know what an 8.5 is. So first of all, the 8.5 doesn't exist in America. It don't exist here. The 8.5 had a 1.5 liter 3AU engine. 1.5 liters, AE85. This is a 4AC 1.6 liter engine, 1.6 liters, AE86. So even though it's single overhead cam, it's still an AE86. And while we're on the subject of redundant numbers that don't matter, the GTS model with the 4AG, the real AE86, they have AE88 stamped on this tag here, whereas our SR5 has 8.6 stamped there. So this is actually more of an 8.6 than the GTS model is. So now that we blocked off the flappy whatever, the intake manifold won't go on anymore because the bolts are in the way. So we're gonna have to cut some bits off of that. All right, I removed some bits from our manifold, so hopefully that'll go on now. All right, that goes on nicely now. And a lot of people might look at that and go,
"Nah, what are you doing? You cut the manifold, you're supposed to do that."
dude, who cares? A lot of people, it seems like they're sheltered. It's like everything has to have a custom CNC part and custom headers, stainless headers, and all this, you know, ceramic coating and whatever. It's like, for most of us, that's just not reality. Unless you're made out of money, you don't have to have all that stuff to accomplish things. All right, so our next performance upgrade is gonna be heat wrapping the exhaust manifold. Just keeps heat away from the carburetor and out of the engine bay in general, because I do want to autocross with this engine some. And you know, when you autocross, you go for a run, you come back, it heat soaks. You go for a run, you come back, it heat soaks. And just keeping heat out of the engine bay helps a lot. Also, another reason for heat wrap is it looks cool, and that takes precedent over all else. I haven't properly set up the throttle yet, but a zip tie will work for now. Hey, it's running. Nice. Oh yeah. I can already tell you that makes more power. We still got to tune it, obviously, but I mean, we didn't even rebuild this carburetor. I just threw it on and it just kind of works, so neat. I was looking around here and noticed that the accelerator pump is leaking, so we'll replace that. It's not a big deal. So the reason this carburetor is so much nicer than the original one is just how they were made. The engineers that made this were tasked by Toyota to make a carburetor that gets this fuel economy, it emits this much, it needs to start in both 110 and -10 degrees, high altitude, low altitude, high humidity, low humidity, and oh yeah, it can only cost this much. And when you put all that criteria into a carburetor, it just kind of becomes a overcomplicated, unreliable mess. Versus this carburetor, Weber just went, all right, we're gonna make a good carburetor and make it tunable so that people can set it up for their engine. And it just ends up being a lot simpler and a lot better. It's also bigger, so it makes more power. And also, this is the rebuild kit for this carburetor. Usually, like for carburetors like that, it's a box of just all kinds of shit, seals and gaskets and needles and whatever. Versus this, it's just like some gaskets and a couple O-rings. That's it. Alright, I replaced the accelerator pump, so that shouldn't leak now, hopefully. Now, before I get into tuning this carburetor, I want to fix the ignition system because it's still got that weird miss going on, so I want to figure this out before I touch that. Why did they use Phillips head? The key to getting Phillips heads out is to not use the Phillips head. So continuing with the theme of this car and no parts fitting, even though this coil looks similar, it doesn't fit. So now we get to put the old one back again. So whenever someone says, oh, Toyota, you know, they reuse parts everywhere, everything, you know, everything fits together. Liars. They're all lying. I took the distributor back apart again and found that our ignition module has, well, it's in two, and it's not supposed to be in two. I'm thinking maybe this was already starting to come apart, and then when we took it out and started messing with it and getting those screws out, it fell off the rest of the way. So I'm gonna see if I can glue it back together. All right, so there's these contacts here that have to make contact with these contacts here. I just added some solder balls to them, and I'm just gonna kinda zip tie this back together and hope it works. Surely, I'd rather just buy a new one, but I have to order it online, and that takes forever. Okay, there's still no spark, so I'll get it a stupid ignition module, whatever. That'll be here in 10 years. All right, so since the engine is broken, again, we're gonna replace some stuff in here. Stuff like this headlight switch that we got brand new OEM from Toyota. Apparently they still make them, despite these cars being rare and the market's teeny tiny. They cost $100. But, you know, the fact that they still make them is pretty cool. So when the original switch broke, the last guy put these cheap plastic things in there, and one of them already broke, but thankfully they didn't remove the plug entirely, so we can just solder these wires back where they go. All right, that should work. So not only does good guy Toyota also still make the switches, they also still make the knobs. See, now that feels official now. It feels crisp. Ah, yes, of course. Does it actually turn the headlights on though? No. What did we miss? Well, Is our brand new Toyota switch broken? So if I jump these terminals, the headlights turn on. So that means that our new switch is not doing the thing. So I just took apart our brand new $100 headlight switch from Toyota, and I think it is wrong because the solder joints here don't match with where the wires are at on our plug. So yeah, maybe it's for right-hand drive and that's the problem, or maybe a different year. I don't know. I just checked the product listing, and this is for this car, the SR5, the US model. So honestly, I don't know why it doesn't fit, but anyway, I'm gonna modify something and make this work, because it looks like everything's wired correctly except the pop-ups. So, all right, so I just moved the 2 pins for the pop-ups to the other side of the plug, and hopefully that's all I have to do. Okay, now it works for real. Okay. Oh yeah, and perhaps most important of all, window crank. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Never mind, I spoke too soon. The pop-ups go up, but they don't turn on. Shit. Okay, I moved another pin on the plug. All right, the headlights are on now. Is that it? Are we done? Is it in for real this time? All right, so I hope this is the last time we have to touch this for a while. These switches are notoriously bad. They cause a lot of problems. And you know in the show where Takumi like turns his headlights off so the other guy can't see him? It'd be a lot more realistic if he broke his headlight switch so he couldn't see it all. The wiper switch on the other side works somewhat. It's kinda, sorta, kinda not great, if I'm honest. Yeah, it just stopped working. There it goes. They go on slow and no other speed. I might take that apart and look at it. Oh, I took the headlight switch apart and started messing with it, and the plastic was just so brittle it just fell apart. But the mechanism was already messed up anyway. I don't think there's anything I could do for it regardless, so I'll get it a new one. All right, now as for the radio, only that speaker works. The other 3 are completely dead, so I got a pack of speakers we're gonna throw in. So I just realized we had a bottle of oil in the back and there's somehow a hole in the bottom of it and it's just covered our carpet in oil. Well, on the plus side, the floor will never rust right there. There's a lot of debate around crimping versus soldering, like, oh no, crimping's better than soldering or whatever, but even on crimp connectors, I always just solder them because I just think it works better. Ugh, that's crusty. So off camera, I just turned on the radio and it was working, all 4 speakers were on, but then I tried turning up the volume a little bit and it distorted and died, and now it doesn't work anymore. It's still on, so it didn't blow a fuse, it's just not working. So I'm thinking this radio, it was kind of questionable to begin with, but I think it just couldn't handle all 4 speakers. It could do 1 speaker okay, but as soon as we tried to put more on it, it just kind of shit itself and died. Okay, so what have we done so far? We fixed this. This is nice. We don't have wires dangling here anymore. We broke the wiper switch. We installed speakers, which then broke the junk bin radio. And that's, yeah. So the next order of business is this HVAC panel with the broken, busted levers. I need to figure out if this is either fixable or if I need to replace it or what.
You won't believe what happens.
Oh yeah, the parking brake cable, that's broken too. I gotta order one of those. Alright, so right in there where they pivot, there's a pin or something missing and they're coming loose there. So it looks like I could just put a bolt right there and fix that. Alright, so I ground down a bolt and put some washers in there and shoved it in. So the lever's lever again now. And the reason they broke in the first place is these cables are really stiff and it just wants to bend and break the whole mechanism. So something needs to be lubricated. Alright, so I got up in there and I sprayed lube everywhere I could, and it's actually quite a bit better, so alright. So HVAC panel works now. I ordered in a new beauty cover, but it's not here yet, so we'll put that on when it gets here. So back onto the engine, I got it a new spark control module and the correct ignition coil. Hopefully this starts again now, and hopefully the miss is also fixed. Why is this distributor such a piece of shit? Alright, so I've been going through this thing, checking every single little thing. It has power, it has ground, all the connections are good, the coil's good. I spun this thing and it makes voltage, so the pickup's good. This is brand new. Like, it should work, and yet it doesn't, so I don't know. I think the early engines had points distributors, so I might try to find an early points distributor to put on this thing, because this one sucks. So even though the distributor is still broken, we can fix this throttle linkage. I'm thinking we might be able to just take the original one off the original carburetor and put it on there. The linkage from that carburetor didn't work as well as I'd hoped it would, but I did reorientate this one, so it actually works pretty decent now. I still got to replace this zip tie with a proper clevis, but that's pretty good. All right, so I got even more stuff for this distributor. I got it a new reluctor and a new pickup. So after this, every single thing in this distributor is going to be brand new. Alright, so we essentially have a brand new distributor at this point, and the magnet in our new pickup does feel stronger, so there's that. Alright, so even though that pickup we replaced was worn out, it wasn't the problem. We still don't have spark, but I know exactly what the problem is now without a shadow of a doubt. That new ignition module we put in was broken out of the box, but I have an interesting solution for that, and it'll be in the mail any day now. So I just took out our radio that we just installed and already blew up, and started looking at radios and saw that Walmart sells one for 30 bucks. And I know it probably sucks, but I mean, I had to try it. And that's the entire thing, by the way. That's not just the faceplate. This is the whole radio. It's the Chode radio. And what gets me is this claims to be more powerful than this does. This is 45 watts per channel, and this is 50. So I guess that's the difference between 2025 and 2005, or whenever that one was made. yeah, and I just realized this radio can be so short because there's no CD player. I just kind of forgot CD players exist. I mean, it sounds okay. It's got a little bit of, just a little bit of crust in the audio, but the speakers we bought are also super cheap, so I'm not sure how much of that is cheap radio and how much of it is cheap speaker, but anyway, a slightly crusty radio is better than no radio. Bum-ass radio. I got this cover so we can make this not ugly. Okay, now that looks nice. So the last major things on this interior is the super cracked to shit dash and the ripped seats. The ripped seats are easy to replace. So the dash, on the other hand, we gotta rip it all out, fill in the cracks, sand it smooth, and that's a lot of work, and I don't want it right now. I will eventually though. I got new trunk hydraulics that I hope fit. Yeah, these things are stiff. I've only replaced one and it already holds it up fine. It's a lot beefier than the old one. Damn, that thing's hard to shut. These things are too beef. It's never just right. It's always not enough or too much. These aftermarket struts are never like the OEM ones were. Okay, my secret sauce solution for the distributor that doesn't work has arrived.
MSD box.
Basically, all this does is replace Toyota's bum-ass ignition control system that doesn't work. The main issue with this thing is it's kind of big, and I'm not sure where to put it. We could put it right there, but I can't really drill a hole there easily. Stick it under the battery. No, it doesn't really go there. This car is too small. Don't support the car with a cinder block. Don't do that, no. Came with a sticker. This vehicle is equipped with one of the following: MSD, legal for sale and installation in California. I forget sometimes that California is the lamest place on earth. So right here on the shock tower is literally the only place we can put this thing, and I can't get my drill in here to drill the holes. So I removed the wheel thinking maybe I could drill them from this side, but now the strut's in the way and I really don't want to remove that, so I'm just gonna buy a tool. We have a right angle drill now, so now we can drill the things we need to drill. The stupid screws that MSD included are too short. It's dumb. They can make something as complicated as an ignition box and yet don't know what size screw to include. That's great. I'm not the biggest fan of drilling holes in the car right away, but I kind of don't care at this point. I went ahead and removed the original control module because we don't need it. So we got 4 wires going to the distributor, switch power, and battery power. I need to get some new terminals to clean this up and some whatever, but I just want to see if it works for now. That started right up, no questions asked. The mist is gone too. Went ahead and put the air filter on. So at this point, I need to tune this thing. I gotta set the ignition timing and turn some screws on the carburetor, but we gotta warm it up first, so. It's a lot angrier than it was before. Put the pop-ups up, there we go. The tachometer doesn't work. We have to buy a separate adapter for the MSD box to make that function again. Oh, the power steering still doesn't sound very good. It's idling at about 2,500, but with this carburetor, we can actually fix that by tuning it, which is what I'm about to do. All right, well, that's running pretty good at this point. All right, well, it's got a rough tune on it now, so. It just purrs now. It's beautiful. Throttle pedal's a little stiff now. I put a spring on it. I can barely even tell it's running. This is good. This drives like a proper car now. I don't have to worry about it dying. It doesn't do anything weird. It just kind of runs. That idle is dead smooth. I wish I had a parking brake. Yeah. Honestly, the acceleration is about the same as it was before. It's still really slow, but the part throttle and idle is a lot better, and that's what we wanted to fix anyway. This carburetor is so oversized. Basically, the first half of the throttle travel is where all the power is, and the last half basically doesn't do anything. It just makes more noise. Also, this thing's a lot louder now. I guess it's just coming from the carburetor. It's like twice as noisy as it was before, but it sounds like it's coming from the tailpipe, so I don't know. Maybe that flap we removed from the manifold did something. Because of all that power, them horses are screaming. I keep forgetting I don't have to constantly blip the throttle to keep it running. It will just idle now. I don't have to do that. It's nice. Oh no, 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 no. See how slow this key is going? That's as fast as he can go. Proof that the 86 is the fastest car. Well, I'd say that's improved. Our carburetor's leaking. Ugh. Could be leaking up here and dripping down. Possibly the float is set wrong, so I'll look at it later. FedPro. Federal agents are making your thread. Anyway, I replaced the coolant temperature sensor, so hopefully the temperature gauge works now, maybe. So on the subject of the power steering, I checked the fluid and it looks really clean, but the issue is it's the wrong color. It's supposed to have ATF in it, but it looks like somebody put domestic power steering fluid in it. So that's probably why it's not very happy. So I'm gonna flush this power steering the lazy way, which is basically you suck it out, pour new in, drive it for a while, suck it out, pour new in, drive it for a while, and repeat that process until it's flushed. I went ahead and installed new battery terminals and cleaned up the wiring to the MSD box. I added some crankcase vents, because that's what you do. So with the engine cold, the carburetor doesn't leak, so I'm pretty sure the float is wrong, because basically, if the float is set wrong, and it's hot and it sits, the fuel expands and it leaks out of the carburetor, so I'll look at that when I feel like it. I want to see what the power steering feels like now that we added some proper fluid to it. Huh. Yeah, it's like completely fixed now. We only put a little bit in it, and now it's feeling bad again. Okay, so it felt fine, and now it doesn't. I think it was using the ATF we put in, but now it's sucked that out of the reservoir and now it's back onto the stuff it's not supposed to have, and now it feels bad again. So I'll just keep adding ATF to it and eventually it'll be fine. I wiped some stuff down, so now it's really starting to look bougie. So unlike the headlight switch, Toyota doesn't make the wiper switch anymore, so I had to get a used one. And it was $150. Yeah, that's an issue on these cars. Basically, a lot of this little stuff, nobody makes them anymore, so they just kind of cost what they cost. So I neglected to check whether or not that switch was for right-hand drive or left-hand drive. It's for right-hand drive, so it doesn't fit. Great. I'm wondering if I can combine the pieces from the original switch with the new one to make one that'll work. So not only is it for right-hand drive, but it's also designed differently. It looks a lot more complicated than our original one does, so I don't think I can combine these, and also it just really doesn't come apart. So I was just looking around for left-hand drive wiper switches, and they're unobtainium, can't buy them, but I have a solution in mind, so we'll come back to this. The wiper switch that doesn't fit also included a headlight switch that also doesn't fit. So I'm gonna use this to put in the wiper knob just as a dummy so it looks like it works. All right, now it at least looks like it works. I kind of had to break that headlight switch to make it go in, so I apologize to anybody that needed that. I just warmed the engine up so we can do a valve adjustment. So sometimes when these valve trains wear out, the clearance will tighten, and other times it'll loosen. Ours was too tight, which can cause burnt valves, which isn't great, so we fixed it. All right, well that's fixed. We had this fuel tank out before, and I was hoping that the crud would just kind of stop flowing, but the crud has not stopped flowing. It's actually going through the filters. See, here's one filter, and then the filter after it is also getting dirty, which means there's also crud going in the carburetor, and that makes me displeased. So we gotta remove the tank again. Fuel tank drain plugs. They're underrated. This thing again. Ugh. So here's that pickup we made, and a lot of people were like, oh, the zip ties are gonna dissolve, the zip ties are gonna turn into liquid. I hate to bust your balls, but fuel doesn't dissolve zip ties. So I have a pretty high-tech solution to cleaning this tank out. Rocks. Wrestling match with a gas tank. Well, that's what we got out of it. Some nasty ass water. So even though gasoline doesn't dissolve zip ties, I went ahead and switched to metal wire so that you can sleep well at night. All right, we'll see how clean this filter stays. Another thing we did last time was make a temporary transmission bracket because the one we ordered got lost in the mail. So I got another one, and then the one that was lost also showed up. So now we have two. Yeah. So now that we have the proper transmission bracket, I can actually plug in the speedometer cable now, so that should work. All right, fuel tank fixed, I hope. Transmission bracket installed. So now I'm gonna set this carburetor float so we can hopefully make it stop leaking when the engine gets hot. Yeah, we've accumulated quite a bit of crud in there. Alright, hopefully that doesn't leak anymore. Float adjusted. So I went for a drive tonight, and while I was out I realized the alternator isn't working, the battery's not charging. I had enough juice to get home. I had to roll start it once, but that's fine. So that's another problem. So the alternator is not charging. I'm thinking it might be an unforeseen consequence of the MSD box. Since there's no distributor RPM signal going to the charge controller or whatever that excites the alternator, it's not telling the alternator to turn on anymore because it thinks the engine isn't running. So I got the MSD tack adapter for the MSD box to make the gauge cluster work, but it looks like it's also going to make the alternator work, so I'm going to go ahead and install that. Alright, well, we'll see if that works. Come on. Why is it doing weird stuff? It like broke the MSD box. What is this shit? I just unhooked the tack adapter and it still doesn't work. This car just ran last night. Why is it broken now? That looks fine. Okay, so apparently the ignition timing is wrong now. I literally just drove it last night. I did not touch it. I messed with this box here and now the ignition timing is wrong. Why? Why? I reconnected the tack adapter so we can test it again. If it starts still. Hey, the tachometer works. Nice. Does it charge though? It charges, but not very well. I only saw like 12.8 volts. It's better than nothing, but... Well, I guess I'll set the ignition timing again. Unfortunately, the battery's still not charging, so great. Well, at this point, I'm just gonna order it a new alternator. So this wiper switch is just for looks now. It doesn't do anything. And I would like to have wipers, because it does rain here. So I got a universal wiper switch and a 3D printed blocking plate thing. So I'm gonna see if I can rig that up. Basically all I'm doing is soldering wires to the remains of our original broken wiper switch so we can still use the original plug. Yep. Well, I was going to use this 3D printed cover to mount this thing in there all neatly, but then I just barely touched it and it snapped, so I guess we won't do that. 3D printing is really good. I don't know why I don't use it more often. So this switch was too fat, it wouldn't fit in there, so I got this one instead that just kind of clips in right there and then turns the wipers on. I didn't bother with any high speed, low speed, or auto stop or anything like that. It's just wipers. Yes, no, yes, no. That's all I need. I also didn't cut up the original harness, so if we ever do find a real switch, we can just easily install it. All right, so we fixed a lot of crap, a lot of stuff that I really didn't want to do, but had to be done. And a lot of people talk about Toyota like, oh, you can't kill a Toyota. Toyota's the most reliable cars on the planet. They're invincible. But, you know, this is the first Toyota I've ever owned, and it's also one of the least reliable cars I've ever owned. Go figure. But now that it's at the point where it's somewhat reliable, it still needs an alternator, but I'll get to that. I want to start focusing on what really matters, which is performance. I want to put some coilovers on it. I want to get it lowered down, put some sticky tires on it, and put an exhaust on it because this one's full of holes, and we might as well upgrade it while we're at it. So yeah, we'll get to that. Subscribe.